The warning beacon pulsed red across every frequency known to the galaxy. It had done so for 3,000 years, broadcasting in 17 languages the same simple message: do not enter the Firebelt zone. Death awaits. The Galactic Assembly had marked it forbidden space, and every species obeyed. Every species except one. Captain Marcus Cole stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Prometheus, watching the deadly asteroid field grow larger on the viewscreen. Rocks the size of mountains tumbled through space, crashing into each other with violent force. Rivers of molten metal flowed between them, creating a maze of fire and destruction that had killed every probe sent into it. "Captain, the Corvani ambassador is demanding we turn back," said Lieutenant Park, her fingers moving across the communications panel. "He says we are breaking galactic law." Marcus smiled. "Tell the ambassador that humans have a long history of going where we're told not to go. It's kind of our thing." The ship shook as a small rock bounced off their shields. In the back of the bridge, Dr. Elena Vasquez gripped her console and tried not to look scared. She was the lead archaeologist on this mission, and she had studied the ancient texts for 20 years. Somewhere in this hellish place was the library of the architects, the mysterious species that had built the first starships and then vanished without a trace. "Elena, are you sure about this?" Marcus asked. "The tablets were clear," she replied. "The architects hid their greatest knowledge in a place that would test any species brave enough to seek it. They called it the Trial of Fire. The Corvani, the Velish, the Morthani, every elder species had tried to enter the Firebelt zone at some point in history. Their ships had burned. Their crews had died. Eventually, they had declared the whole region forbidden and moved on. But humans were different. Humans never moved on. Navigator Chen called out from his station. "I'm seeing a pattern in the asteroid movements. They're not random at all. There's a path through them." Marcus leaned forward. "Show me." The viewscreen changed to show the chaotic field, but now with thin lines tracing between the tumbling rocks. It was like a maze that kept changing, but there was always a way through if fast enough and brave enough. "We have about 3 seconds at each decision point," Chun said. "Miss one turn and we hit a rock. Miss two and we burn in the metal streams. Can you do it?" Chun was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "I can do it, but everyone should probably hold on to something." What followed was the most terrifying 20 minutes of everyone's lives. The Prometheus twisted and rolled through the asteroid field like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Rocks passed so close to the hull that the crew could see the cracks in them. Molten metal sprayed across their shields, making the whole ship glow orange. Marcus watched Chun work. The young navigator's hands moved faster than thought, adjusting their course 100 times a minute. Sweat rolled down his face, but his eyes never blinked. This was humanity at its finest, pushing past every limit to reach the impossible. "There!" Dr. Vasquez shouted. "I see it!" In the center of the field, protected by the chaos around it, floated a single asteroid that was different from the others. It was perfectly round, its surface covered in ancient writing that glowed with soft blue light. Towers rose from its surface, impossibly intact after thousands of years. "The Library of the Architects," Elena whispered. Chun guided the ship into the calm space around the asteroid. The chaos of the field continued behind them, but here, everything was peaceful. The Prometheus touched down on a landing pad that seemed designed for exactly their kind of ship. "That's strange," Park said. "The landing pad fits us perfectly." Like they knew what human ships would look like. Marcus stood up. "Let's find out what else they knew." The team suited up and stepped onto the surface of the asteroid. Gravity was gentle, probably artificial, and the air inside their suits stayed at comfortable levels. The towers loomed above them, covered in writing that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at it. Dr. Vasquez led the way to the largest tower. The door was open, as if waiting for them. Inside, the walls were lined with crystalline tablets thousands of them, each one containing more information than all the books on Earth combined. "This is it," Elena said, her voice shaking with emotion. "This is everything the architects knew. Their science, their history, their art, everything." Marcus touched one of the tablets. Images filled his mind, faster than he could process. He saw star maps showing parts of the galaxy no one had ever explored. He saw blueprints for machines that could end disease and hunger. He saw records of species that had risen and fallen before the current galactic order even existed. But there was something else too, a warning. "Captain," Dr. Vasquez said quietly, "I'm seeing references to something called the Silence. The architects were afraid of it. I think that's why they hid this place." Before Marcus could respond, the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. The soft blue glow on the walls grew brighter, and a voice spoke in perfect English. "You have passed the trial of fire. You are the first to reach this place in 3,000 years. But the trial was only the first test. The second test will determine if you are ready for what you will find here." The walls around them began to change, the crystals rearranging themselves into something new. The library was waking up, and humanity was about to learn why the architects had really disappeared. Lieutenant Park was the first to notice that the door behind them had closed. There was no panic in her voice when she reported it, just the calm professionalism that Marcus had come to expect from his crew. Humans had a talent for staying calm in situations that would make other species freeze with terror. The voice said, "There's a second test," Chun said. "What kind of test?" The answer came not from the voice, but from the crystals themselves. They projected images into the air, showing scenes from human history. The first fires being lit in dark caves. The first ships crossing unknown oceans. The first rockets breaking free of Earth's gravity. And then it showed something else, something that hadn't happened yet. A fleet of ships, human ships, standing between Earth and a darkness that swallowed stars. Dr. Vasquez studied the images with growing understanding. The Silence. It's not just a concept. It's a real thing, and it's coming. The voice spoke again. The architects encountered the Silence 200,000 years ago. We could not stop it. We could only hide what we knew and hope that someday a species would rise that could succeed where we failed. Why us? Marcus asked the empty air. Why did you design this trial for humans specifically? We did not design it for humans. We designed it for any species brave enough to enter fire, clever enough to find the path, and stubborn enough to keep going when every other option is to turn back. In all that time, only one species has possessed all three qualities. The crystals began to pulse faster, and more information flooded into the room. Technical specifications for weapons that could hurt the Silence. Strategies that the architects had never had a chance to test. Locations of other hidden caches scattered across the galaxy, each one containing another piece of the puzzle. Elena was crying now, but they were tears of joy. We're not just getting their knowledge. They're giving us a mission. They're asking us to finish what they started. Marcus looked at his crew, at the humans who had risked everything to reach this impossible place. They were tired and scared, but they were also determined. That was what made humanity special. Not their intelligence or their technology, but their refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. "Download everything," he ordered. "We're going to need all of it." The return journey through the asteroid field was easier, not because the field had changed, but because the Prometheus had been upgraded. The architect technology had merged with their ship systems, giving them reflexes that matched Chun's and shields that could shrug off the molten metal. They emerged from the Firebelt zone just as a dozen Corvani warships arrived to stop them. "You have violated sacred law," the Corvani commander announced. "You will surrender your vessel and face judgment." Marcus opened a channel. "We found the library of the architects. We know about the Silence, and we know it's coming. You can arrest us, or you can help us save the galaxy. Your choice." There was a long pause. Then, slowly, the Kovani weapons powered down. "Tell us everything," the commander said. In the weeks that followed, the news spread across the galaxy. Humans had done the impossible. They had entered the Forbidden Zone and emerged with knowledge that changed everything. Some species were angry. Some were grateful. Most were simply amazed. The Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. For the first time in its history, a young species was asked to lead the entire galaxy in preparing for an existential threat. Not because humans were the smartest or the strongest, but because they were the ones who never stopped trying. Dr. Vasquez presented her findings to the Assembly. The silence was real, it was ancient, and it would reach their region of space within 200 years. But now, thanks to the Architect's gift, they had a chance to fight back. "The Architects chose well," the eldest Velish counselor said when she finished. They knew that someday, a species would rise from one small planet with more courage than sense. They knew that species would change everything. Marcus Cole stood at the back of the assembly hall, watching history unfold. His crew stood with him, the humans who had flown through fire because someone told them it was impossible. They had started the day as explorers. They ended it as the hope of every living being in the galaxy. And somewhere out there, in the darkness between stars, the silence was watching. It had destroyed civilizations for millions of years. It had never lost. But it had also never faced humanity. And humanity, as the Architects had understood, never knew when to quit. The new age was beginning. The age of fire. The age of defiance. The age of humanity. Captain Cole returned to the Prometheus that night, needing a moment of quiet after the chaos of the assembly. He found Chun on the bridge, staring out at the stars through the viewport. "Can't sleep either?" Marcus asked. Chun shook his head. "I keep thinking about that navigation through the field. It felt like the path was designed specifically for how humans think. Quick decisions, adaptive planning, accepting risk." Dr. Vasquez joined them, her tablet filled with notes from her ongoing translation work. "I found something else." The Architects weren't alone in their fight against the silence. There were 4 other species who joined them. All of them are gone now, but they left behind their own caches, their own pieces of the puzzle. "More trials?" Marcus asked. "Different trials, each one designed to test different qualities." The Architects believed that defeating the silence would require a coalition, each member bringing something unique. Over the following months, expeditions launched to find the other caches. The Kovani found one in a gas giant's crushing atmosphere. The Velish discovered another in a nebula that disrupted all navigation. Each cache added more knowledge, and slowly, the galaxy began to change. But not everyone welcomed human leadership. Some species resented it. Others believed the silence was a myth. Protests broke out on 100 worlds. Marcus was called to address these concerns before a special session of the Assembly. He stood alone on the speaking platform, facing representatives of every known species. "We didn't ask for this role," he said. "We went into the Firebelt zone because we were curious, because we wanted to know what was out there. That's what humans do. We explore. We push beyond every boundary that tries to contain us." He paused. "The Architects saw something in us, but that doesn't make us special. Every species here has qualities that we lack. The Kovani have discipline we can barely imagine. The Velish have patience measured in centuries. We need all of you, because this was always meant to be a team effort." The chamber was silent. Then the eldest Morthani delegate rose. Her scales faded to pale silver, but her voice strong. "My people have watched the younger species for 10,000 years. Never have we seen a species quite like humanity. You are reckless and often foolish. But you are also brave beyond measure, and you never stop hoping. If the Architects believed in you, then perhaps we should too." One by one, other delegates stood, accepting human leadership not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. The years that followed were filled with hard work and sacrifice. The defense fleet grew from a few ships to thousands, each equipped with architect technology and crewed by members of every species. And through it all, humans led from the front lines where the work was hardest. The silence came exactly when the architects had predicted. It emerged from the void between galaxies, a darkness that consumed light and life with equal hunger. It had destroyed countless civilizations. It expected this one to fall just as easily. It was wrong. The fleet met the silence at the edge of known space. At the front of the formation flew the Prometheus and her descendants, human ships carrying crews who had inherited their ancestors' refusal to accept the impossible. The battle lasted 7 years. Entire star systems were lost. Billions died. But the galaxy held, and slowly, impossibly, the silence began to retreat. When it was over, the survivors gathered at the site of the final battle. Captain Marcus Cole had died in the last engagement, but his legacy lived on in every being who had fought beside him. The eldest Morthani delegate spoke the words that would be remembered for the rest of galactic history. The architects were right. Humanity passed the trial of fire, and in doing so, showed us all what was possible. They taught us to be brave. They taught us to hope. They taught us that the darkness can be defeated if only we refuse to look away. The new age was beginning. The age of fire. The age of defiance. The age of humanity. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the echoes of the architects smiled, knowing that their faith had been rewarded at last.